Today, we're looking at a green ink by Zenzoi Green. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps down below so that you can skip around to the parts you're most interested in, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here and like fountain pen inks, I would invite you to subscribe. I do a new ink review daily. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then put the ink into this Italics Chaplin's Tankards with an oblique italic nib to write for the day and to take my notes for this video. I use 3 papers to standardize in some of my writing samples: Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. There are additional writing samples that'll come later in the video. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in cartridge form, and to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub, with no feather, spread, halo sheen. It does offer some spots of shading, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 13 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine does show some color variation, which we got. The medium shows none, and we didn't get any. And Tomoe River. No bleeding, normal Tomoe River ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, and 20 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show no color variation, and we didn't get it. And Rhodia, which, gotta back up to be able to show you. The stub and the extra fine did perfectly good, but the medium has quite a bit of its bleeding very deep into the page, which is causing a lot of show through, which is very unusual for Rhodia paper. So, I don't know. You could probably use the back of the page, but I'm just disturbed by how much it did on the Rhodia. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade, and 16 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, although we really don't get it. The medium shows none, and we didn't get any. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And they call this a green that is mostly a blue, it looks like, in the chromatography. It pushes its way up. Maybe that's a turquoise pushing its way up with a bright highlighter green at the top. I'm willing to go as far as calling it a turquoise dye with a green, and that's why they're calling this ink green. The one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And we see that it is kind of deciding to try and form a little bit of a line at the bottom. But largely it looks the same, except for the fact that I marked one with the letter D. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before I test it. Looking at the highlighter, it handled itself very well. It would be very safe to use in a note-taking situation if you wanted to be able to go back and highlight. Now, water removed all of the green that was on the top, leaving all the turquoise from the chromatography. You do start to see the white of the paper coming through in just a couple little spots. It did only take water to get this out of my pen. Pen flush did about what water did, not really a whole lot more. The 1/3 bleach solution completely removes it from the paper.
I test for viscosity or flow using a thing called a tilt test. I will link how I do that, the video of it, down below or up in the cards. I also then put it onto a standard distribution so it's more easily seen with all of the inks that I've tested. Now, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9.
Zenzoi Green has a viscosity of 1.48, making this a very wet ink.
To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairfontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those. Now for the inks I've tested, I have found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds.
Zenzoi Green has an average dry time of 14 seconds, which is normal. Instead of finding inks that look like Zenzoi Green, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a nice brown, and I chose Diamine's Golden Brown.
The second writing sample is done on Levenger, TWSBI, and black and red paper.
Here we're looking at Levenger notebooks. Now, when it comes to the medium, it's not that it's bleeding, it's that it's getting quite deep into the page and we're getting show through. And I don't know that I've seen show through happen on Levenger at all. Just to be clear, you could probably use the back of the page. It doesn't touch the page underneath on anything. I just do find it amusing that what's happening. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is the same tone as the stub with no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 8 seconds to dry. Medium, which is where we had some of that bleeding in and show through issue, is darker than the extra fine. It has feathering. Look at the word quick. Look at the word over. The word the. Look at the 10. Look at the seconds. Brown. Lots of tiny feathering all over this. No spread, no halo, no sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show, no color variation. We're really not getting it in the writing. TWSBI notebooks. I think it handled the ink the best of a lot of the papers, really. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 14 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, which means it's possible, but we didn't get it. Medium shows none, and we got none. Last up is black and red notebooks with no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. The extra fine is about the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 9 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 12 seconds to dry. Scrubby of the extra fine shows we should be getting a lot of color variation, although we got none, and the medium shows none, and we got none. That is all that I have for the writing samples. So what do I think of Zenzoi Green? There is a tremendous amount of color variation you get on this ink depending on what pen you put into it. And that color variation is not of a true green. It's much more of a teal, so they missed the mark naming this one. What nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? While your writing experience won't be green, it will be teal. A dry stub puts down the most pleasant version of that teal. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, and thanks for watching.